You told me it was love. Every rule, every criticism, every time you made decisions for me like I didn't have a voice. You called it protection. You called it caring. You called it being a good parent. But I'm going to tell you something that's going to shatter the story you've been telling yourself. Ready? It wasn't love, it was control. And you chose control over knowing me. But here's what you don't know yet. Here's what I couldn't see until I was old enough to look back. You were 7 years old the first time someone made you feel powerless. And you've been taking it back ever since. Stay with me because what I'm about to show you will rewrite everything you thought you knew about why this hurts so much. It wasn't the rules that broke me. It wasn't the expectations or the pressure or the way you decided who I should be before I knew who I was. It was something you've been running from your entire life. You never saw me. You saw a project, a reflection, a chance to rewrite your own childhood through mine. You didn't raise me. You controlled the narrative, and I spent my entire childhood trying to be the child you needed me to be instead of the child I actually was. And here's what you'll never admit. You knew. You felt it every time. I pulled away. Every time my eyes went cold when you made another decision for me. Every time I stopped sharing my thoughts, because you'd already decided they were wrong. You knew I was disappearing. But you told yourself it was rebellion. You told yourself it was a phase. You told yourself that if you just held tighter, I'd understand someday. You confused obedience with love. And when I stopped obeying, you thought I stopped loving you. I didn't stop loving you. I stopped performing. But the real damage wasn't what you did. The real damage was what I did to myself because of it. I became a performer. Not just for you. For everyone. I learned early that who I actually was wasn't acceptable. So I studied people. I adjusted my personality based on who was in the room. I gave them the version they wanted. I said yes when I meant no. I smiled when I was dying inside. I buried my anger so deep I forgot it existed. I didn't just lose my voice with you. I lost it with everyone. Because you taught me that love requires erasure. That acceptance means becoming what someone else needs. That my worth was determined by how well I performed. And I believed you. Close your eyes. You're 7 years old again. Can you see it? Can you? Feel what it felt like to realize my feelings don't matter. Only theirs do. Maybe it was a parent who needed you to be perfect, because they weren't. Maybe it was a caregiver who punished you for having needs. Maybe it was someone who made you responsible for their emotional state. You learned early that love is conditional. That approval requires compliance. That if you just behaved correctly, performed perfectly, stayed small enough, you'd finally be safe. So you started managing their moods, managing their expectations, managing the space you took up. You became hypervigilant to everyone's needs, except your own. You learned to read rooms before you entered them. You learned to apologize for things that weren't your fault. You learned that your job was to make other people comfortable, even if it meant betraying yourself. And that's when the truth revealed itself. Not about them, about the wound you've been carrying since you were 7 years old. The wound that made you believe your needs were a burden. The one that whispered, if I'm too much, they'll leave. If I ask for what I need, I'll be punished. Maybe love is something I have to earn by disappearing. You didn't create that wound. They just confirmed it. So here's the truth. You've been avoiding the one that's going to hurt more than anything I've said so far. You weren't afraid of disappointing them. You were afraid that who you actually were would never be enough to be loved. That's why the control destroyed you. That's why you became a people pleaser. That's why you convinced yourself that compliance was care. Because accepting the truth would have meant facing something unbearable. You were never the problem. The problem was that you were trying to earn love from someone who couldn't love you without controlling you. And then something broke. Not your heart, that had already cracked open years ago. Something deeper, the belief you'd been carrying since you were 7. years old. The one that said, if I just perform correctly, I'll finally be chosen for who I am. That belief. It finally died. The shift didn't happen when you moved out. Not when you set your first boundary. Not when you finally said, no. It happened when you asked yourself a question you'd been running from since childhood. Not, why can't they love me for who I am? But why did I spend my entire life pretending to be someone else for someone who never asked who I actually was? When you stopped trying to earn their approval and started grieving the parent you needed but never had. When you realized the person you betrayed wasn't them, it was you. You stopped performing the day. You realized their love was never the prize. You were never in a competition to be worthy. You were just a child who needed to be seen. And they were a parent who needed control more than connection. Here's what you learned in the aftermath. They didn't control you because you were bad. They controlled you because they were terrified. Terrified of losing you. Terrified of their own powerlessness. Terrified that if they couldn't control your choices, you'd make the mistakes they made. You weren't their child. You were their second chance. And when you refused to be that, they thought they'd lost you. They didn't lose you. You just stopped being available. For a role you were never meant to play, you don't resent them anymore. Not the way you used to. Because the anger dissolved the moment you realized. They didn't control you because you weren't enough. They controlled you because they didn't know how to love without fear. And here's the hardest truth. They might never understand what they did. They might never apologize. They might still believe they were protecting you. You don't need them to understand. You need to stop waiting for their permission to become who you are. You're rebuilding now, not into who they wanted, into someone you've never been allowed to be, someone who knows. Love is not obedience. Approval is not acceptance. And you will never again erase yourself to make someone else comfortable. You are releasing the belief that your worth depends on performance. You are honoring your needs without apologizing for them. You are refusing to manage other people's emotions at the cost of your own. You are learning that disappointing people who need you to stay small is not betrayal, it's liberation. And if they can't meet you there, you walk, because you finally understand, being controlled by someone who's afraid to lose you is not love. Being released from someone who couldn't see you was protection. So here's the final truth. The one you'll carry forward. You were never too much. You were just real in a space that required performance. They didn't control you because you were unworthy. They controlled you because letting you be free meant facing their own fear. And now you know. You don't need their approval. You need your own. And the courage to disappoint anyone who needs you to stay small. If this landed in your chest, like it was written for you, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you're still trying to earn their approval right now, I need you to hear this one more time. You were never too much. You were just real in a space that required performance. Stop trying to shrink yourself to fit someone's fear, and listen closely here, because this is the part no one ever told you. The people who needed you to be smaller were never protecting you. They were protecting their own comfort, their own ego, their own limitations. They confused your depth with danger, and your authenticity with disobedience. They taught you that being loved meant being edited, being tolerated, meant being quiet, and being chosen meant being useful. But you're not here to be manageable. You're not here to be easy to swallow. You're not here to contour yourself into a version that offends no one and satisfies everyone. You don't need their approval. You need your own. And the courage to disappoint anyone who needs you to stay small. Because the moment you stop performing, the truth appears. Some people were only attached to the version of you that didn't exist. Let them lose access to you. Let them be confused. Let them call your growth distance, your boundaries attitude, your voice too much. You are not here to be chosen by the people who only loved the edited version. You're here to finally choose yourself. And if no one has said it to you before, I'm saying it now. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to outgrow the room you were raised in. You're allowed to walk away from the roles you were forced to play. I'll see you in the next one.